Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining and welcome to the Global Soccer Conclave Fan Engagement session. And I'm really privileged to be joined by a kind of a superstar panel out here, a lot of experienced fellows in this group. And, it's such a privilege to, be a moderator for this group. My name is Venu, and, I'm a keen sports technology enthusiast and follower, and I love to be engaged in anything and everything related to sports tech. And fan engagement as well is one of my key passions, and it's associated with my role these days as well. So thank you very much for joining in, and it's my honor to introduce our panelists, in no particular order. We'll start with Jeff. So Jeff Wilson is an experienced sports strategist, marketing and fan engagement expert, and he's currently working as a consultant for major sports organizations, including the FIFA, UEFA, AFC, and FIBA. And he's also an expert advisor for the FC Barcelona Innovation Hub. And he is the co-founder of the Global Esports League and has played an instrumental role in the brand development, commercialization, and activation and fan engagement for the Irish FA. He has several major achievements in his career, including CIM Marketing Director of the Year and CIM Marketing Excellence Award in 2008 and 2010, respectively. So Jeff, welcome to the panel. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. And it sounds nice, but you know what? I'm just an average guy who just loves his sport. So lovely to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to the next one, Darren. Darren Young is a director at the Fan Experience Company, who have been assessing the matchday experience at football clubs since 2006. In 2019-2020, they conducted more than 350 assessments in 11 countries and carried out the EFL's award-winning Family Excellence Program since the 2007-8 season. They also provide fan engagement and experience advice, support, people development, and practical solutions to associations, leagues, and clubs throughout Europe. So Darren, once again, thank you for joining.
Hi, Venu, and thank you for that introduction. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you as well. Thank you. And we have Marco Sansoni. Marco is a spectatorship expert and globally recognized for his contribution towards continuous enhancement of physical and digital experience of fans, millions of sports fans. Throughout his career, Marco has focused on the development of a seamless, memorable experience and was a part of international events such as the Olympic Games, FIFA World Cup, Asian Games, international federations such as FIFA, UEFA, FIGC, to mention a few. He has also developed a unique perspective for integrated and holistic vision of sport fan engagement, in which he termed as spectatorship. And in FIFA World Cup history, he developed the first spectator experience and services during the 2014 World Cup. So that's a lot of experiences, to share, Marco. So such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. And it's an honor to share the floor with such a team of panelists here. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure. We have Manish as well, Manish Upadhyay, a person with 18 years of experience in the customer experience and digital innovation solutions domain. He's at the global level with deep insights in the sports media and entertainment industry as well. Manish is currently the global head in sports tech domain at Tech Mahindra, and he's playing an instrumental role in creating bespoke, innovative solutions with a commercial perspective. So welcome, Manish. Pleasure to have you.
Hey, thank you, Venu. Good to see you again, and hello to some of the known faces. Good to see you.
And last but not the least, Ranjit. We have Ranjit Bhatti, who is the Senior Director South Asia for LiveView Limited, which is a global leader in live video technology related to live production and broadcast. And Ranjit has an experience of over 20 years in technology related to video content, post-production, broadcasting, and 3D animation. Prior to LiveView, he was managing Avid's business in South Asia, and before that, he was also involved in growing the business of brands such as Autodesk, M&E, and Coral in India. Ranjit, pleasure to have you here as well.
Thank you, Venu. And besides all that you said, I'm also a very big football fan. That's most important. That gives me the immense pleasure to be here on this panel. And also, I'm one of those guys who's still playing football on Sunday mornings. Just in case.
Lovely to hear that. Yeah, lovely to hear that. And absolutely, that's the reason why we all are here. We love sport, particularly football. And so, yeah, such a pleasure to have all of you out here in this panel. So, yeah. For the audience who are watching, I'm sorry, I'm sweating a lot because I'll just take off my jacket because it's kind of an in-between weather here in Canada. So it's hot and cold. I can't switch on the AC because it gets cold. And if I don't, switch it on, it gets hot. So I'm just taking it off. So yeah, it's that kind of a weather, that fall weather. So yeah, sorry about that. So just for the audience, the flow would be that I'll be asking a few questions from the panelists, and we have a list of questions prepared. And as and when we go through the webinar, we would also take some audience questions as well towards the end. And so I'd request you all to kind of put in your questions, and we'll get the administrators to kind of send it over to us. And towards the end, we'll have the audience questions answered. In the meantime, although it's a Q&A, I would also encourage all the panelists to chip in whenever you want to. Let's make it more interactive, and let's have a fun discussion. All right. So, yep. I'll just start off with the first one. So, Darren, the first question to you.
Okay.
Have the fan engaging strategies in stadiums really changed post-COVID, with fans returning back to stadiums? That's an interesting one to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the easiest way is to say not as much as we expected. So that's what I'd say. First of all, I think in the UK, fans have been out of stadiums for many of them for 18 months. So I think it's important that clubs do have strategies in place and probably tell fans a little bit more than they used to, because they've been out of the loop for quite a long time. But actually, in terms of the match day experience strategy, we found that it didn't change that much, to be absolutely honest. So when we came to do this season's match day assessment forms and reports that we do at all the clubs, we actually thought we'd have to make a lot of changes. And when we came to look at the form, we actually realised it was very similar to what was already there. And I think because stadiums in England and the rest of the UK are mostly at full capacity now, what we found is that a lot of the experience is very similar, and how clubs can improve it is also very similar too.
Sure. So is there an apprehension, I'll just add on to that. Is there an apprehension in the general fans, while coming back to the stadium? Is there a change in behavior from their perspective, or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, I've only been to a couple of games since the season started. So my own evidence is probably that what we've got is probably that the whole environment for fans is very, very similar. So the stadiums are open as usual, the same. The teams, the everything else about it is all very, very similar. What's probably changed the most is the fan. So what we can see is there's probably two very distinct types of fan. Obviously, there's lots in the middle of this, but you do get some fans who are obviously very worried and apprehensive and want to follow all of the restrictions to the letter. And then we've also got at the other end of the spectrum, a type of fan who probably just wants to get back in the ground and enjoy themselves and doesn't want to really follow too much of it. And I think clubs are just having to adjust to make sure that they cover both. Everything they do covers both sides of that, because obviously if you go too far one way, you can cause problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fascinating to hear. All right, Manish, I'll come to you next. You being a business owner of sports tech for a Forbes top 15 digital and big company like TechMindra, how do you see fan experience, that can be transformed and monetized using new age tech?
Well, thank you, Venu. Very thoughtful question. And Darren, I think, I've enjoyed the last game of India versus England at Lords. We have also done, delivered the digital commerce experience for ICC at WTC, World Test Championship. And there's a lot of difference in the number of fans. Yeah. And, I concur with Darren to an extent, reason being, and it is related to an experience. Yeah. And what I feel, there are two parts of the experience. Earlier, it was more physical. Everyone wants to come to the stadium and there are limited number of seats. But now, thanks to this pandemic, it has created the reach for fans beyond the obvious. Yeah.
Yep.
So there will be more and more digital, fans than physical fans. And that's, I can see a paradigm shift in terms of experience. And as a fan, if you're very worried about your health, safety, or your family's well-being, you can choose a digital experience over the physical experience. And there are a lot of companies, and we were talking in another session prior to this, the 5G, AR, VR, they have the potential to create a pretty much identical, the fan experience like in a stadium. Yeah. So we are working on some of the things, evangelizing some of this experience. How can we bring a stadium to home and home to the stadium? Yeah. So like in my dining table where I'm going to have a, dinner in the evening, can I project a live UEFA game? Yeah. From all the 32 cameras using 5G as a technology, as if, and that experience is much more immersive and real than, the stadium experience. You can create that kind of effect. And that's where, the commercial modeling of all the telco companies, media companies, and, in fact, the sports organizations, they are lobbying towards it, because that's the future. You can't guarantee health and safety of everyone and anyone into the stadium, whether you are 20% capacity or 100% capacity. But this is also leading to new digital business models and new revenue streams. And that is purely experience led. There is no one wants to compromise less than a great experience. None of the fans. Yeah. So that's one part of it. And as a Tech Mahindra, we are betting very heavily on it, because our DNA is always being a telco, whether it's a AT&T, whether it's your Vodafone. We work with all leading telco companies. So we already understand the 5G side of the business. The sports side of the business, we are working since UEFA, FIFA since 2004. So we also understand broadly that spectrum as well. Now, if you see 5G, initially we thought, on industry pundits, they thought it will be purely a telco-led proposition. But now, whether it's a robotic surgery, or whether it's a sports, whether it's a manufacturing, everywhere, from B2B2C perspective, it is being used. And that's where I see the potential. And some of the trials which we are doing, that will redefine the future. How the games was being played before the pandemic will be played in the future, was being consumed before the pandemic, and will be consumed in the future.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, I keep telling this to a lot of people whom I meet as well, that, a recent study concluded that 92% of fans do not even go to the stadiums, so now there is a way, there's a need for all leagues and sports teams as well to cater to both sides of the coin, in terms of, the fans inside the stadium, as well as the, entire gamut of fans who could be anywhere across the world, not just in your own city, following your team. So that's quite interesting, Manish.
Now, let me just double click also. I think Darren has touched upon a very important point. So whole experience from purely physical and broadcast, it is getting into the phygital. I call it phygital. Now, when I say physical, some of the things which we are working from a physical experience perspective, your face becomes your ticket. You go to the stadium, it's a completely contactless fan experience. Your body temperature has been read out across 105 temperature points on your face. And when you are at normal temperature, and your face is also scanned, whether you exist in the clubs or that games match database. If yes, the gate will automatically open. You don't need to buy any physical ticket. Yeah. And then once you move from there, and suppose someone is coming very closer to you, and if both of you have installed the app of that particular club, and if you are breaching the social distancing, there will be an alert on your mobile app saying you are breaching the social distancing. Please maintain a safe distance. Yeah. Or there will be a small flashlight. Yeah. Because the camera which is watching you can trigger a flashlight on your face saying, and that means, please maintain a social distancing. Then there will be a complete AR, VR, 3D map which will guide to the stadium to you. And, there are what not we are experimenting on, the complete fan currency, where the whole experience, you need not even to use your card. Yeah. Everything will be done through your digital wallet. So I think that's the physical part of it. Yeah. Second thing is the digital, which I talked about. But again, between physical and digital, we are working on the transition, and transition has to be so smooth that you don't know that when you're shifted to the stadium and when you've shifted from stadium to the mobile app and vice versa. So I think that's the future. And if you see the overall gate revenue of any big game is around 5 to 10%. Yeah. So anyway, it's not significant. Major revenue is your broadcasting and advertising. And with the technology like 5G, AR, VR, and IoT, you can build that kind of immersive experience to the fan, and you can charge them for that exclusive feed. And plus, you can also activate some of the brands. In a stadium, you have a capacity, only a limited number of brands you can activate. But through this, a very exclusive premium content, you can give it to the fan, and you can, activate as many brands as you want. So huge opportunity, huge potential.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I love that idea of the physical distancing part, getting the alert on the app and stuff. That's
Absolutely. And I call it sports is changing from mere and sports to an experience-driven economy, I would say. That's the way I would like to conclude my thoughts on.
Thanks, Manish. Really fascinating.
I think it's interesting what Manish is saying. I mean, for me, I actually would like to get away from the word digital and actually come into the word data. Because to me, having a data or an insight-led fan engagement, and I nearly would get away from the word fan and say guest experience. So, how do we really understand and use all of that data first type, approach, data first, insight-led, but outside of that, that there's that real focus. And I think for me, what we can't do is focus on the fans on match day only, because you've got fans, and I think it was a model that I created in 2016, in that you have fans on match day at the venue, you've got fans on match day not at the venue, but then you've got fans at the venue when it's non-match day, and then you've got fans non-match day not at the venue. And for me, I actually think the biggest opportunity is actually fans who are non-match day but not at the venue. How do you engage with them and really understand who they are, what they are, and bring them closer to you, so that overall you have a deeper relationship? And again, just on Manish, I actually would take it a step further. I think the mobile app will be there. I think you'll have a chip. I think you will have a piece of technology that will be under your skin, and that will be your passport, as well as buying food, as well as getting into the actual stadium. I think what this will do is send the data that makes it highly personalized. And that's why I say data first rather than digital first. And I think that's really where it's going, highly personalized. So when Jeff comes into America, my hand with the chip gets me into America in my passport. But because of the data that I've had eating a burger in Northern Ireland, they will know the type of burger I like, how I like it, and then it will be sent to me based on the data through the beacon technology or other connected devices, and 5G will be that enabler to do that. There's something like, if I'm right, 20 billion devices. That probably will be into the 20, 30, 40 billion connected devices. And the more connected devices around us gives us data that's highly personalized, highly focused, and this screen will allow us to analyze that right the way from our health. If we score a goal, to what food that we like, will all be driven based on the chip, based on the data, but it has to be outside of the stadium and inside the stadium on match day and non-match day. In other words, a complete 360. You can't turn off and turn on the tap just on match day.
Absolutely agree, Jeff. I think that's the whole thought behind, not leaving revenue on the table, right? When you know that on non-match days as well, you could engage fans through digital and data-driven mediums as well. So yeah, perfect. And yeah, for another day, we'll have a discussion whether the burger in North America tastes good or the Northern Islands. Yeah. All right. So yeah, coming back to the questions, I'll come over to Marco. So Marco, from your perspective, what is the day-to-day emphasis, that goes on analyzing a football spectator in any football organization?
Well, thanks for the question. I can definitely talk for the reality of those organizations that I work for, that I know of. So talking about local organizing committees, it's the World Cup or Olympic Games rather than federations, international federation Football International Federation for 2 years. And then I can tell you what I've observed, and I can share my vision with the other esteemed panelists and the audience about how this should be done. And some answers were already given, I would say. Let's start with the semantic description. I totally agree with Jeff, so that we can all speak the same language, and that is extremely important whenever working in a sport organization, which it's usually includes people from all over the world, professionals from all over the world. So the question refers to football spectators, who can be fans and non-fans. And among fans, there can be more or less fans, but they are spectating or not. So there's not a grade of spectating somehow. So football fans, if they are fans, basically, if we analyze the football fans, we need to clarify, and I hope this is clear now. So back to the day-to-day emphasis I have observed throughout the years. Well, the emphasis has not been on spectators. Simple as that. I've been involved in global sport events since 2005, and every single project I would have had to restart from scratch. You would think you have left a legacy, and that is pretty clear to everyone, the importance of spectators, because in the planning phase, everyone focuses. We are in the office, possibly at the venue, but it's under construction. So everyone focuses on the plans, on the paper, on digital paper. Then the gates open, and finally the spectators come in, and finally everyone understands what I was trying to say in the previous years, trying to anticipate needs. Trying to catch the expectation and build a service on top of that. So the end is over. Everyone finally comes to you and say, "Oh, Marco, we should have listened to you." Not Marco, but anyone that does my job. I mean, we should have listened to you. And then you get hired for the next event. You get there and say, you meet the same people, and you start all over again. So the emphasis in this sense, this is slowly changing now. In recent years, I've seen a change. I must admit, and when the pandemic blasted, well, the change boost. There was a boost to the change, especially in terms of data. The pandemic helped sport organizations that have more time and less events to organize in some cases, to start collecting or analyzing the data that they didn't have the time to analyze, but they had collected. So basically, football and other sports organizations were distracted by the B2B clients, as Manisha was talking about B2B earlier. So TV sponsors, those big money that come in from those windows, they are not considered the money that come from the spectators, but actually that is. All the B2B want to engage, want to provide a service, look at broadcasting or digital platforms to the spectators. So basically, the B2B are the partners. The only B2B is less of a partner for a sport organization, and these have been ignored. While today the emphasis starts to shift toward the fans, we have some great insights. On a year basis, we have let me think, Copa 90, the Modern Football Fan report. We have the European Club Association report, which was kind of misread by someone. And we have all the big four, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, rather than Accenture, everyone focusing on the fans and their insights, and talking about their new behaviors, their new approach to the fan experience. We have also big projects, big tech giants, I would say, rather than big, Microsoft, Verizon, Alibaba Cloud, Oracle, to mention a few, who are focusing their attention and their capacity to innovate on sport fan experience and services. So this is exactly the path at the moment. This is exactly as Manish was mentioning before, that there's the future, and Jeff highlighted how the data is key to that future. In brief, the daily emphasis is finally on the fans, on enhancing their experience and their engagement. I expect some very positive results sooner rather than later, as the data are available. The analysis, there must be some work on it, but the expectations somehow are set, and let's see what will happen.
Absolutely, Marco, can't agree more. The tech giants are all focusing towards this, fan engagement domain. And, speaking of tech, I have Ranjit, who's been patiently waiting, so I'll come to him for my next question. In terms of, tech, Ranjit, from a broadcast perspective, how is LiveView's cellular bonding technology being used by sports broadcasters and content creators to enhance fan engagement?
So thank you for this question. Great question. So I come from the side which is more involved in getting you the live coverage of the events on sports or the games which are happening maybe inside the stadium or also outside the stadium. Inside the stadium, getting you coverage is not a major challenge. Why? Because you have these major stadiums which already have satellite, fiber, and all this kind of connectivity, and it's very easy for us to send you content. By the way, fan engagement is also all about the kind of content, and content today is the king. So the quality content that you provide them, the more quality of the content in terms of whether it's graphics or whether it's multiple angles, or however you can try to make it more richer experience for them is what matters most. So in terms of what we do is it's a very simple solution. We actually use multiple SIM cards or SIM cards from different telecom operators, and we stitch them together and we give them a stable bandwidth. It works for it works for a lot of sports in this way. First of all, for some games we do the main games, which is the game. But for a lot of these games, and all the games probably, we are also doing what's happening before the game, what's happening after the game, what's happening in the bus, what's happening in the dugout, what's happening in the hotel. So all this content, which is really not probably being broadcast onto your regular television for a fan, it's being it can now be it is already being, for that matter, shared or is streamed to fans for consumption. And you're seeing that a lot of fans are actually following that, and that's the reason why major football sports clubs have these millions of people who are going to their websites, especially in Europe and also in India. IPL, for that matter, those clubs, they have millions of Mumbai Indians and KKR. They have millions of fans who are actually hitting their consuming through the website through different devices, and we are trying to get them connected, but in a way that they keep coming back to the website or to the portal or the platform again and again by providing more and more live content. It could be as simple as a birthday party or a wedding or a team get together or a meeting or a special event where somebody is coming and doing some award ceremony or just anything that you can think about, and it's really having a huge impact. So this is one. In terms of games which are outside the stadium, it's a bigger challenge, because if it's a moving sport, it's cycling, it's swimming, it's probably going across mountains, and then a lot of people know that, but the production for such kind of games covering these kind of events is really, really huge, and we also kind of made it viable or cut down the production cost. Why? Because now all you need to send is somebody on a bike along with the camera and our backpack, which can use the cellular bandwidth available, and you can stream directly to your studio, which could be in UK or in Canada or wherever, any place in the world, even Philippines, wherever. And the team could be sitting over there and they could do the production and put, or for that matter, even on the cloud. So it doesn't even have to be a physical place. It could be the cloud, and people could be anywhere across the world and they could work together and then fantastic. You can have it on multiple platforms for any number of angles, any number of, you're not basically limited with what height you can go to, or where you can, you can take it on a boat, you can take it on a cycle, you can take it, on yourself, and you can just go to any angles that was never covered, before. So there's a lot happening. We've recently also introduced certain units which can do multiple cameras. So just send one guy with few cameras, and just you don't even need a switcher on the field. Just put it to our unit, and it can stream up to 4 cameras back to the station. So lots happening, and then there is a lot of good work happening there.
Interesting. I mean, from your summary, what I can always, say is that with modern day tech, a lot of things have become closer to the fan, from the player to the team, to so many experiences which probably were a distant reality in terms of, the fan knowing the teams or knowing their favorite sport, in that detail. But now with tech being so accessible, right? And even players and the media people being so accessible to the fans, now it's becoming more and more easier to kind of, connect as well as experience all of this. So yeah, so that's quite
interesting. Last IPL, I think KKR, when they were doing the practice sessions, they were streaming it live on their website. So that's just an example, and a lot of people were actually following that as well.
Interesting. All right, thanks Ranjit for that. Darren, I'll come back to you now. So in terms of the prerequisites, what are the prerequisites that you have to create a strong match day experience? And can you explain some of the best practices? So maybe, taking some of the experiences from English football, if you could just summarize that.
I mean, it's a good question. I should probably put a caveat on my answer, because obviously taking in all the other panelists' views there, I'm really, the Fan Experience Company really deal with the 8%. In fact, I'm going to suggest that we change the company name when I come off the. So we're looking at people who are physically in the stadium or in and around the stadium, and it's interesting. Just one of the interesting numbers that we found out when we looked at all the, I think it's about 3,000 assessments that we've done since we began, and 50% of them are in stadiums where there's less than 5,000 people. So we're obviously working as well with lots of clubs where there's a much heavier reliance on ticket revenues, and they don't have the advantages of maybe TV money and etc. So they have to obviously think about it a bit more. So I'm probably going to answer that question, Venu, on sort of based on a general thing that sort of covers all those clubs as well, because they often get sort of missed out of some of the conversation. But I'd probably, there's lots of prerequisites. I think I'd probably stick to 3 that I think are the most important. I'd say communication, activities, and people. So what we find is that probably the most important thing to really help the experience is if people know it's happening in the first place. So many clubs do things but don't tell fans what to expect, and therefore they either don't turn up because they don't know it's happening, or even do turn up but don't find it because it's in another part of the stadium, or somewhere that's not as accessible unless they know it's there. So communication is probably on websites and social media is such an important one leading up to the game. And probably best practice, a lot of clubs now have gone towards developing sort of a downloadable guide on their website, or something that fans can go to very quickly. It's all very clear, and all the information that they'd want, particularly for a new fan, or an away fan who's never been to that stadium before, or a family, or somebody who's got real needs where they want information that will help them plan the day. Then actually that guide can contain everything from ticket prices through to fan zones and everything like that. So that's probably one. Activities, really, I mean, I could just summarize that as things other than the football. So if football wants to attract, and particularly if clubs want to attract a younger audience and families to games, then obviously having things that sort of fill in the gaps, really, because obviously we're all concentrating on the 90 minutes, but there's a lot more around there. And if we want to get fans to arrive early and enjoy the day as a spectacle rather than just what happens on the pitch, which we obviously can't control very, very well, then and obviously having things to do, and particularly things to do for younger fans, but even older ones too, in terms of fan zones and things like that, I think is really important. And I'd summarize the third one is for me the most important, and that's the people.
Exactly.
I think in all of the work we do, in all of the assessments that we do across clubs, what we find is that the clubs that do it really well, they always, without fail, have strong people who do a really good job. And then what you find is that if there are parts of the experience that perhaps aren't as good, so for example, if the club's got some limitations on what they can do because of space, or if other parts of the experience and other touch points do fall down a little bit, a good member of the team can really lift it up. But we always warn clubs when on this one, because obviously it really leads towards training and development and motivation and reward and recognition and all those things. But of course, just as well as they can lift it, it can also go the other way as well. So someone who, someone who's not smiling or not in a particularly good frame of mind can bring a whole experience down, even if other things are good. Agreed.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Sorry, Venu, just taking the train from what Darren just said. Basically, it totally reminds me when planning, for example, the spectator experience and services in the World Cup back in Brazil, 2014. I had to find a motivational speech. How do you basically deliver such service? Is through 5,000 volunteers spread among 12 stadiums in that case. And I was telling to my staff, the managers who should have passed the information to the supervisors and assistant, that's the paid staff, around 300 people. Our client is not the fans, it's not the spectators, are the volunteers. If we provide them with a positive experience, this has a positive domino effect on the fans, on the overall experience, and on the fans. And what is our target? Our main target is to transform the frustration, because you'll find frustration on the ground, not because of your fault, or maybe some of the volunteers provided the wrong information, or it was misinterpreted, doesn't matter. Your target is to transform that frustration into satisfaction. That's how we make the difference. And that's what I still think it works the best, besides the digital transformation and the phygital world that is happening and it will happen. That personal touch on the ground, what Darren just said, is absolutely what makes the difference for the fans, for the experience, the physical experience we're talking about.
We were lucky enough to do some work with the NFL, and that was a real eye opener for me in terms of totally turning the whole experience so that the fan is right at the heart of it. And I think, football clubs certainly in the UK, from our experience, are a long way from that at the moment, but it's certainly a direction they probably need to think about traveling over the next few years.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, Darren, because, I always feel that there could be a lot of cross-cultural learnings from across the world where, stadiums, teams and leagues could kind of, innovate and also learn from each other, right? What works in one specific country or a geography, and, how we could maybe replicate it or maybe have a different form of it in another country as well.
Yeah. I've just got one very quick one that I could just share you on that. I did some work where I was in a stadium where there was an NFL game, and there was two members of staff who were working, and the following day there was a Premier League game, and they were both at Wembley, so people could probably work out the clubs from that little clue. But I spoke to a couple of members of staff and I said, we got talking, and they said, they were working tomorrow, and I said, that must be exhausting doing 2 days, and they said, no, it's football tomorrow, so we don't have to worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just gives you that little insight into the fact that football just has it's got a little bit of a way to go before it reaches those levels.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. All right, Jeff. So, I had an audience question, which is quite similar to the question that we had lined up for you. So my question to you is, how do other team sports differ from their fan engagement strategies in football? And is there something that football can change and get benefited? So there was an audience question which was, about what should be the starting point of football for stakeholders to create a strong fan community and developing an ecosystem. So it's kind of somewhere related between each other. So if you could just touch upon that.
Yeah, I'll just sort of touch on it and then we'll see how the conversation. I mean, I think for me, first of all, we've got to understand that you will have indoor and outdoor type events. And in indoor events, you can do maybe more, for example, with the big screen. You've got much more you can do in an indoor area. Outdoor events, different opportunities, but also different challenges. So I think that's the first thing I would say. Second of all, you do have cultural areas, and Darren touched on it. In America, you would have maybe things such as tailgate parties. That's just part of the culture. If you put a tailgate party into the UK, it's a barbecue. It's just different. Different things can work, but it's just so there's cultural differences. So I think that's the first thing, that there are cultural differences and that there are differences with the stadiums. I think what I would say, when you look at the likes of WWE, when you look at the likes of NBA, they're probably doing, in the indoor side, a lot of very interesting fan engagement. That's both, and ice hockey would be in there as well. That's in terms of both digital and physical. So everything from fan zones, tailgate parties, on the digital side, using AR technology, VR technology, live streaming. WWE does a great job in this whole live streaming area, content production. All of that, I think, is really good. I think on the stadium side, I start to see some of the clubs. I mean, I was at Orlando City, and they had downtown, and you marched to the stadium. Now, that doesn't sound very exciting, but boy, did it kick off a great day, because everybody had the purple, everybody was dressed in purple. And what that did, which I think part of fan engagement is, it's a community. It's having a community relationship, and we should never forget about both at the venue, not at the venue, game day, non-game day, online or at it. This is all about building a community and having a deep relationship. So at Orlando, they basically just had a very simple idea. You start here, you march with the drums, purple, people were having flares, and you came to the fan zone. And at the fan zone, then you had everything from games, small-sided games, how hard can you kick a ball, to quality food and beverage. What? How simple is it to have a good food and beverage? How simple is that? Sometimes we're into, let's go on these really different ideas with fan engagement, but sometimes the basic ideas are the ones you need to sort out at the very, very start. And the other is, how quick can we serve that quality food? So for me, I think there's a lot in those areas of the NBA, WWE, at the venue. I think outside the venue or at stadiums, areas such as football, Orlando City, MLS doing a good job. I think golf is doing a good job. You're starting to get, from a digital point of view, where you've got VR technology that talks about everything from the data that's being collected from the golfers. So there's a lot of that. But I want to touch on one final bit, and that's esports. And I think what esports has been quite interesting, it has brought together a community of people around different games. But what it does, especially in the environment of Twitch, it creates conversational community. And that's what lots of people are wanting now, as in Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are wanting conversational. They want to, as we would say, lean into the conversation.
That's right.
They don't want to be, I'm out here. They want, the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas want to lean in to that community, be part of it, be known for something, that tribe type concept, but lean in and be involved in part of that conversation. So I think there's a lot that's happening really good in that area of esports. and a lot of very interesting sort of fan engagement. So those are just some areas. NBA, WWE, there's some in the MLS, esports and golf are doing some really interesting both indoor and outdoor. But no matter what it is, and I'll just leave it with this, whatever your sport is, remember you will have a history and a heritage. Tap into what that history and heritage is and make the most of that and make that experience absolutely fantastic. Everything from buying the ticket online through to getting to the turnstile. Is there dust on your seat? As in, is the area around you dirty? To the cleanliness of toilets, to the quality of food, to how you get out and how you are served quality content around and that day in terms of behind the scenes content.
I agree, Jeff. I mean, it's kind of imperative to create a complete 360-degree experience for a fan. So that's something which is there to be learned as well as delivered, like you rightly mentioned. Right from the food to your overall match day experience. So everything can be encompassed into one single specific strategy. And I think you nailed it in terms of how the WWE is doing it, how the NBA is doing it. I think there's a lot of things that can be replicated, across the world as well. Interesting. All right, Manish, I'll come over to you. So do you want to take the fan question? Not the fan question, the audience question first, or do you want to take your question, Manish? Your choice.
I'm okay. Otherwise, I have already answered him, Mohit, 1-to-1. Yeah. So
okay.
He wanted to know how can we build the fan base, which are already not connected to the club and all. And my answer is, I don't want to give any sugar-coated answer. There is no silver bullet for it. Yeah, I want to be very honest and real here. Yeah, but if you really see, there are some of the things which most of these clubs are following, and some of them are doing very nicely. Yeah. So, and thanks to the pandemic, the online coaching and training, prepares you at most to be a player playing in some of the league, and in worst case, become a fan. Yeah. So that's one of the strategy most of the clubs they are following to build their future fan base. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, it is very, very important for you to analyze the data. Why someone follows the club, what are the the attributes, whether they follow the theme, whether they follow the energy, whether they follow the vibe, whether they follow, of course everyone follows a specific player. Yeah, but we went to La Liga long back and we asked, do you know who your fans are? Let me give a very classic question, classic case study. Yeah, and they say, yeah, of course we know that. Okay, who your fans are? They said, this many fans are Spanish, this many fans are European, this many fans are US, this many fans are Asia Pacific. I said, no, your most loyal and committed fans are, the South Indians living in Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah, and we give them the data because they access you or your content through this IP addresses over this many period of time on year. And we said how you can, convert them and monetize on that experience. Yeah. So data is the key. One is the, live training and coaching session, but, there is data is very, very important to know why someone is not following you or why someone is following you, and build your strategy on it and try to engage a casual fan to a fanatics. Yeah. Try to convert a casual fan to a fanatics. Yeah.
Vinny, can I just jump in there because I like what Manish is saying, but I want to give a little bit to Darren and his fan experience organization. They did an amazing project with the Estonia League, and Darren could probably talk about it. But you know what they did? They basically put in a development officer who went out to the community, engaged in the community. What? We're going out to the community? And they put this in place where they engaged with the community, and then when they brought them to the stadium, it was an amazing experience and a really great, I'm sure Darren can do it, but what they did with that Estonia League was simple, community-based, reaching out, and making the experience be fantastic. I don't know, Darren, whether.
Well, I don't need to say much else because Jeff obviously has taken on the PR duties there. So thank you, Jeff, for that. That's brilliant. One thing I would add to that, apart from that, was that the project effectively put its money where its mouth was as well, because some clubs saw increases from about 60 to 80 fans up to 600 to 800 fans. So it was, some of the responses from fans who understood what they were people in the community who perhaps wouldn't have been interested before, saw what they were going to get or what they could get from attending a match and went there. And obviously then you give them the great experience that they're expecting, and then they come back, and that's what happened in that project. But thank you, Jeff. It was a nice.
I think that's very helpful, because one of my colleague, who is also a great fanatic in Tech Mahindra, he started a foundation called Jishnu Mitra Foundation in India. And what do? They provide the underprivileged, kids, the basic, basic and advanced level of football training and coaching, which includes their accommodation, their stay, and such a beautiful thing. You are just giving back into the society and building, you're building a brand, you're building a community, and at least, telling them to follow a sport at such an early age. Yeah. So beautiful message. And, there are a lot of, clubs which I am seeing globally, what they're doing, wherever they are based out of, they are adopting a school. So their coaches are going free there, and they are giving, 1 or 2 hours of free physical education related to the football. They give the coaching, and, it develops the interest at the very early stage of child's career, and B, in this whole process, they start following you. So eventually you are building your fan base for the future. So it's a fantastic way of, building it. So, and I welcome the thoughts from Jeff and Darren. Thank you very much. Venu, I would like to go to the next question, if it is okay with me.
Sure. I mean, in terms of the opportunities for sports leagues to unlock potential of digital and tech, where do you see those opportunities? Quickly, if you could summarize.
Big opportunity, if you really see. If you see, when the pandemic hit us, most of the sports organization, tier 2, tier 3, let's keep it aside, even Manchester United, Liverpool, their balance sheet has gone red. Yeah. So suddenly there were no games happening, no fans in the stadium, and there are a lot of people being asked to leave. Yeah, and there are a lot of initiatives, even I started with my couple of colleagues, to support those people, who are working in this stadium, and do some, create some kind of funds for them and all that. Yep. Now, suddenly they realized the fan in the stadium and all the sponsorship also, they started losing it. It's not the revenue stream for them. And that propelled the growth of digital. So the digital journey, which was taking for them 10 years or 5 years, which they were thinking, suddenly it started taking months. Yeah. So I can see the future of technology and digital for the sports properties to convert them into a full-fledged digital properties. And that's the potential opportunity and end goal. How to do that? I would say, there are 3 things, 3 by 4, I say. One is identify, engage, and monetize. Identify who your fans are. I gave you La Liga example. Do you really know who your fans are and why they are with you? And then engage. But between identify and engage, there is something called, you can't engage someone like this. You have to start providing them personalized and data-driven experiences. So they start liking you more and more. Once they start liking you more and more, they start coming to you more and more. Like, friendship is not being built between 2 people, Venu and Manish, over a day. When we start meeting or having a coffee together, start having some football related conversation, maybe it becomes a permanent engagement. Then building that engagement means providing them what they are looking for at the time when they want and what they want. Once this is done, and I'm again coming back, no one was talking about the monetization. But since the pandemic, because all this balance sheet has gone red, everyone has started exploring the alternate revenue streams and monetization part of it. Now, still, when I talk to various football leagues and all, and I just asked them, like last week, I was talking to Man U digital director, and I said, what is your monetization percentage? You might have 500 million fans, but how much you make out of them? And to my surprise, other than Man U TV, there is no other, or branding or advertising or broadcasting, right? There is nothing else which they can make money out of. And there is still an opportunity. So when I say 3 by 4, identify, engage and monetize. And when I say 4, which is content, community, commerce, and data. So providing the content, building the community, driving the commerce through personalized data-driven experiences.
All right. Thank you, Manish, for that summary. Absolutely agree. We are just running short on time, but I have a couple of quick questions for Ranjit and Marco to sign off with. So Ranjit, I'll come to you first. Can live streaming more content help to keep the fans connected and lead to monetization? Something which Manish touched upon, but if you could just elaborate on that.
Of course, that definitely is something. You provide more content, you get more hits, you keep your fans coming back to you, and obviously because of you increase your traffic to your to your portal, and of course that will lead to monetization. The other question that I wanted to actually answer also, I'm sorry, with your permission, is there is a question which has been put up. It's a very interesting question about how do you engage fans in terms of amateur club or a grassroots level, especially in a environment like India. And I see that I guess Jeff is already answering that. But we've been spreading this message across, and also we've been talking to a lot of leagues in India, and we see that at the grassroots level there is hardly any exposure in a country which is as big as India, where there is huge amounts of talent. There is any exposure. There is hardly any exposure to the people who are actually playing subdivision boys, subdivision girls, under 14, under 16, and all that. So my suggestion to them is, social media is really catching up, and that everybody's on social media, and YouTube channels and Facebook channels are always there. All you need to do is invest in somebody who can manage your social media channels, and and put all your matches or all your content that you would like to put. Keep putting that more and more videos, more and more content on those social media, and you will see that there is a fan base which will grow. Because why? Because my nephew is playing today. I would like to see whether I'm there in let's say in Delhi or not. I would like to see it, whether I'm in US or UK. So I'm going to be hooking on to that YouTube channel. His neighbors are going to be hooking on. His other relatives, friends, other people from the school. Everybody's going to they don't really need to go to the school playground or to a different city where he's playing. They can all go to it's just an hour or 2 hours. So everybody's going to look up everybody's going to go on to that social media channel, and they can see it. So you will now see maybe 1,000 people who are actually just watching that school game, which probably maybe 100 parents who were living nearby would have turned up to. So that kind of connectivity with new fans, how you grow your popularity among your community, your region, your local suburb, it can be done. It's very, very minimal kind. You just need to have one camera and something which is like a live view solo maybe, and then that's not even INR 5 lakhs. So your investment, and that can be used for all your sports events, not just football, but all your sports events. And school does many events. So, and that all our kids now in India are going. There are many international schools. We are paying fees like out of the fees has really gone high. So obviously those schools can invest, and we are going to build a culture of sports right at that age. Only then your football will become more and more popular, and it will become probably as popular as cricket or any other sport for that matter. So this is what we need to do. I mean, you need to use your social media platforms. You need to use some bit of technology. You need to use some bit of not very amateur, but a little bit of I would say prosumer kind of content, and you will see your fan popularity or your popularity of your team growing. So this is what you can do for a really grassroots level, tier 3, and I'm not talking about the big ones, but people who are just school level, or even let's say B class, C class towns.
Interesting. I agree. I think the power of social media and tech has to be used effectively to kind of create those communities, like you rightly mentioned.
See, if you keep posting videos and there is a talent, let's say there is a boy, I've seen this Iranian boy, I think 9-year-old Iranian boy, and everybody probably must have seen his video, who's doing amazing skills with football. So maybe there's an Indian boy also out there, maybe in Kerala or maybe in Tamil Nadu. We don't know, in Chennai, but we have not seen his video, so we don't know about him. So if his school would have posted this video today, maybe 1.3 billion Indians would be checking him out, or probably people outside. So that's the power. We're checking out. We know that there's an Iranian boy who has the skill to dribble football, but we don't know about an Indian boy who's probably based in Northeast who can dribble as good as him. Or maybe we don't know, because he's not exposed to nobody's posting his videos.
Correct. Agreed. Thanks for that, Ranjit. So quickly coming on to Marco for our final question. Marco, so, taking a cue from where Ranjit left off in terms of the social media strategy and stuff. So my question to you is that, how can football organizations compete strongly with their other fan-centric competitors like Netflix, Fortnite, TikTok, etc.? Or, my kind of follow-up to this would be, would they really need to even compete, or do they kind of need to partner with these, streaming companies to kind of provide a complete 360 experience? So yeah, over to you.
Well, if you ask UEFA, they already started in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Very good point, Venu. And well, compete. Let's say this is $1 billion question. So if I get it right, I ask the audience to provide 1% of the extra revenue generated by the answer. Beside that, the short answer would be, first and foremost, football organizations at all levels should start being fan-centric first. So just like the organization, the companies you just mentioned, Netflix, Fortnite, TikTok, they all release products and upgrade their existing ones to please the users, as they know the audience profoundly. And basically, second premise to all this is to try to answer the question is, football and sport, again, as a sport, should understand that they operate within an industry that is called entertainment and not sport.
Yep, exactly.
Simple as that. What I mean is get off the pedestal and start facing the reality. Football is one of the myriad of options, entertainment options that we have nowadays, and it's not the best in quality price, as the others were highlighting. I keep wondering why we don't sell carbonara, the best carbonara at the Olimpico Stadium Olimpico in Rome. I mean, we get very, very bad sandwich whenever they are available. Anyway, so what I mean here is the premise, I think, is understood pretty clear. Football can only benefit from this awareness, and it may look at case studies within the entertainment industry. So to start learning and reducing the gap as it's running far behind, and include other benchmarks within other sports. And I was watching earlier the F1. I think that is absolutely one of the benchmarks. I'm taking this because it hasn't been mentioned, but I agree with all the others. Unbelievable. Before the pandemic lockdown, I was sent as an observer to the Super Bowl to observe the physical fun experience. I thought that would have been the last event of my life. I mean, I would have died happy. In that case, it's basically, but let's speak F1. I've monitored F1 for the last 4 years since the owner changed. Why? Because it was interesting, the vision they expressed. They wanted to put the fans in the driving seat. And when I talk about the spectatorship, I say I want the fans at the center of your strategy. That's exactly the exact words. And quoting the director of media rights and content creation of F1, the strategy was to turn the next race as unmissable as the last episode of Games of Thrones. Bingo.
Absolutely.
They got the point. The industry is entertainment and our competitor is Games of Thrones. I mean, and if we get inspired by that, we'll do bingo. And they did bingo. Just a few data, as we were speaking about data here. The return of investment since 2017 in this fan-centric strategy, it's 5 to 1. An increase in TV viewership, increase in selling official merchandising, increase in fantasy players, F1, increase in social media participation of over 100%, increase of the fan base, more than 45 million in China new fans, overall 17% increase in the fan base last year, while football did 6%. So this to give you an idea, and as sport organizations, everyone is interested about revenue. The revenue of the second quarter was $500 million higher than the previous year, same quarter. You want to know about the benefits of having a fan-centric vision? Here you go. I'll conclude. I don't want the entire conclave to run late. So basically, football has still has a big advantage. It's the most followed and beloved sport in the world. But still, for the moment, but lacrosse is doing really well in brackets. It must understand that it's in competition with other form of entertainment, and to reduce this gap, it can learn from the competitors, indeed, but needs, and the other said it pretty well, to start consulting, being conversational, and it can be extremely cheap. We mentioned the social media. Why don't you just do Instagram stories with the proper questions? Simple as that sometimes. It's not, of course, the main issue, the main barrier here, as far as I see it, if we will go and I conclude with going back to the question to everyone, which is the starting point. The starting point is governance. And for governance, I mean internal governance. There's no client owner of the fans within sport organization, known except one, the most fan-centric one, NBA. Just 1 year ago, they appointed the chief of fans. So the path, it's clear. The fan-centric transformation started, and only amazing results can happen if this is followed. And I thank you for the attention.
Thanks a lot, Marco. Appreciate that a lot. I agree completely. I think chief of fan experience is one profile or role which probably would not have been existing pre-pandemic or in that degree of seriousness, but now it's kind of becoming a well-known entity within an organization for sure, within a sports body for sure. So, I mean, with that, gentlemen, thank you so much. Really appreciate your thoughts and your amazingly passionate answers to some of those questions. And, we're glad that we could even cover some of those audience questions, which you guys answered even by typing it out as well as in your talks. So thanks for that. I think we covered a lot of stuff today. To summarize, from Darren's side and from Marco's side, the experience of a fan in an arena, and from Manish's side and from Ranjit's side, the tech part of it, and the strategic element, which Jeff covered from his consulting side of things. So, it was a complete 360 fan experience or fan engagement experience related webinar. So I think I'm really, really delighted and absolutely honored and privileged to be part of this, discussion. So thanks a lot, everybody. And thank you to Global Soccer Conclave for having us and, for helping us talk through this experience as well. So thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great day, night, wherever you are. So yeah, it's day for me out here in Canada.
Thank you, Venu. You have been an amazing host. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.